1370 WOCA.
WOCA.
All right, 25 minutes before 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. If you've ever attended a graduation ceremony and you listened to the speech of the invited guest speaker, then you've probably heard, hopefully you've heard something very motivational and very encouraging and very much a pep talk, a congratulations on the work, congratulations on graduating, and now here's what you got ahead of you, and this is my advice to you, right? You hear this all the time when you have gone to any of these graduation ceremonies. I have never been asked to be a person who does one of those speeches. However, it must be something that gets a lot of thought once you get that invitation, because what do you say? You know, and you've seen everybody from military generals to scholastic achievers to comedians. Conan O'Brien did one, and then sometimes there's something so profound said in like a little nugget of wisdom that not only does that graduating class take that and kind of run with it, but the rest of us do too. Sometimes that happens. The book we're about to talk about has lots of those nuggets from many different writers. The name on the book is Sheryl Sandberg. The book is called Lean In for Graduates, and Sheryl is not on the phone, not ready to talk to us, but I just want to tell you she is the chief operating officer at Facebook. Prior to Facebook, she did a bunch of stuff with other big names, Global Online Sales, Google, chief of staff at United States Treasury Department. I mean, this is a lady who has made some great contributions to us as well. And can you imagine, when I remember when my son graduated and he was ready to enter the workforce, there was a lot to it. It wasn't just which job am I going to like, which job is going to make money, but which job am I going to be proud of? I remember that. Do I want to be part of an organization that does that, which I'm not proud of, or this, which I am proud of, that pays less money? And fortunately for him, he was able to, and your son too.
Oh yeah.
And your daughter.
Yes.
Took some
All
great jobs and definitely understood what they could do with the education that they received. And that's what it's about, isn't it? The book is really outstanding. We've got two of the contributors to the book on the phone. Dr. Mindy Levy is on the phone. She's an industrial and organizational psychologist. She's an executive coach. She's a board member of the leanin.org, and they're going to explain what that's about, or what that is, rather. She's a human capital consultant. That's why I like human capital. Human.
Yes.
Humans. We are the resources, right? And Kimberly Keating is on the phone. She's the founder and managing director of Keating Advisors. She serves on the board of leanin.org and Nuru International. And again, the book that they're on the air to talk about, that they contributed to, is called Lean In for Graduates, because the world needs you to change it.
Yes.
Absolutely. Let's change this world. We tried in our generation. We tried. I suppose we made some progress, but there's a lot of work to go, and it's the next generation that'll do it. Dr. Levy and Kimberly Keating, good morning. Both ladies on the phone right now. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Where are you? Let's see. Dr. Levy, where are you?
I'm in the D.C. area.
Okay. All right. And Kim, where are you?
Same, Washington, D.C. area.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, ladies, for being on the phone with us today to talk about this. Does the book do what I just described it doing? Does it give us that same motivational push that a graduating ceremony would give?
It certainly does. I think you described it so well, and I just love how you said it offers these profound nuggets, because it really does. And for new graduates especially, who are looking for pieces of advice on how to get started in their careers, this is the book that does that. It talks about not just how to find a job and how to negotiate your salary, but really how you want to figure out what you want to do in the first place.
I wonder how many people have had these really amazing speeches at their graduation ceremonies and wished they had a copy of it. They probably think back to it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I know I do mine. I can think back to mine. I can remember it. And so to have it in writing. So are any of the things written in here actual speeches, or are these the book version of what a speech might be?
I have a feeling you're going to get a lot of invitations.
The new chapters provide not as much a speech, but rather practical advice and tips around their particular area. So, for example, in Mindy's chapter, she gives really great advice and very clear direction on how to get that first job. And then I offer tools and step-by-step guidelines to how to negotiate that first salary.
Okay, and let me apologize real quickly. It sounds like maybe you have a hard time hearing each other, so I apologize if that happened right there. I'll push a little switch up here, and maybe that'll help. That's exactly what I got from it too. You know what I'm thinking though, is that people who have graduated years ago will buy the book, will read the book, will get something from the book.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I absolutely think so. And, in addition to these chapters by experts that are geared towards new graduates, there's so many additional stories. And there's also the original content of Lean In. But the stories are examples of men and women who have leaned in all types of personal and professional situations. So it's a great read.
And what is Lean In? You want to explain what that is?
Sure. Lean In is now a community of men and women all over the world who have come together to help support each other in achieving their ambitions. As you know, it started with the Lean In book written by Cheryl, and leanin.org is a foundation that was created to essentially support the message of the book. And now Lean In has over 425,000 members in the community, 16,000 circles in over 72 countries, and also there's a focus with the new edition on college campuses, and there are over 300 circles in colleges across the country.
Now, when you have done your research and solicited stories, did you feel that some of the stories were on the same topic and then you had to cull some out so as not to be redundant?
Well, that is really a question more for the editors and how they made the decision. There are just so many lean-in stories to choose from, and in fact, there are hundreds of them on the leanin.org website.
Oh, okay. So there's more on the website. The book is part of it, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Exactly.
The one thing I wanted to point out is that so far we've spoken about ladies. You two are ladies, and obviously Cheryl is a lady. The women who are graduating from college, the young women who are ready to enter the workforce, this must be very inspirational, motivational to them, just to know that you've paved the way, other women have paved the way. I mean, we've done a pretty good job of trying to make it equal, but it's not there yet. Do you get that kind of feedback too? That the fact that women are giving advice as well as men, it's not just a man making these kind of statements.
Yeah, I do think it's really very powerful. And many of us are brought up thinking that there is equality in the world. Because we do have women and men, having very similar representation in colleges and as graduates and also entering the workforce. But it's really at the top where there are differences. I think women have less than 6% of the top CEO jobs in every country in the world. The differences at the top are really staggering. So, this is about making sure that people understand the differences and also trying to find ways to close that gap.
There are different breakdowns of companies, whether you're a certain race or you're a certain gender. People, when people want to get elected, the politicians will use this for their campaign to try to strike a chord with each individual section instead of treating everybody as an equal. Do you agree with that?
Well,
it's a little delay there.
I think that the goal is to definitely try to have a workplace where individuals are treated equally. And one of the things that we talk about are some real guidelines about how women can take more initiative and advocate for themselves even more to make that happen.
Tim, if you try to teach somebody how to play piano, you often learn how to play piano. Okay. I'm wondering if in being asked to write these, did you inspire yourself at all? And were you inspired by some of the other entries, whether you're college age or not?
Oh, without a doubt. The one of the most interesting thing for me as I was doing research and hearing stories from young men and women about their job searches is there's so much research that shows that women tend to underestimate their abilities. And they have, they lack confidence and they have lots of self-doubt. And so, sometimes they're nervous to apply for a job. Or, when they actually do apply for a job and they get an interview, it's very hard to show up as confident for them and to talk about their accomplishments. And, I look back on my own career and I think about, wow, you know what, there were some moments for me as well where I probably did, not step up to a particular job or opportunity. So, just even putting it on paper really was it was like self-help.
Are women putting their children on the back burner so they can succeed in the business place? About raising their children?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Most women in today's economy work. That's just sort of a fact of life. Men and women work. And, children are a part of the equation, and that's true for both men and women. So, women are finding ways to, make both of those parts of their lives work for them.
One of the contributors to the book is Melody Hobson, and Melody happens to be an African-American woman. And she's almost she addresses some of the things that Robin mentioned earlier, but it was fascinating to see how she began her entry in that she was approached by somebody who was attending the speech she gave 10 years earlier, and where she said, "I feel sorry for white women because they don't realize they're going to be discriminated against." That's me paraphrasing it, but it's kind of interesting. You don't realize that. I guess I wouldn't. I don't know.
No, very, very powerful.
I hope that we are starting to get past that, and I think this kind of a book helps us get past that, right?
Absolutely. I think that one way for us to get past it is to have a dialogue and to feel comfortable discussing, as Cheryl talks about in the book. She worked for many, many years without ever discussing the fact that she was a woman because she was fearful of what the reaction would be. And so it took a lot of courage, and we hope will inspire others to talk about gender and race and ethnicity and leaning in and the challenges that we face, all with our unique backgrounds.
Over the years I had the privilege of working for a few companies. Two of them were very large. They had companies in different states, and each company that I worked for, one was manufacturing and one was in entertainment. They both seemed to treat the men and women equally there. So there wasn't that problem of power. You had women at the top, you had women in different places, you had men at the top, men in different places, and it did, and the pay was right. Everybody had the same benefits. And then you hear about companies that aren't that generous and caring. So how can you get the companies themselves on board? Because some companies are really, really good in that respect, and they seem to be tossed by the wayside, and then all these generalizations are made that it's across the board.
One of the things that a lot of companies today are starting to do is, first, they're recognizing where there are inequities or issues in their workforce, which is a really big first step. They're also putting in place programs for managers and leaders in the company to just understand sort of the under the covers part of this and what is happening, beneath the surface, so that they are able to slowly make changes in how personnel decisions are made, how people advance through the organization, and so forth.
Kim, the thing I could relate to, even though I'm a man, is the uncomfortableness with negotiating. And in the piece that you wrote, I could relate to that because That's me. I mean, even though I'm a guy.
Sure.
And here's the thing. It almost sounds like you were saying that women aren't supposed to negotiate, and the opposite of that would be men are supposed to know how to.
Right.
I've never been good at this.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Most people are uncomfortable negotiating. There's a study recently that people are more comfortable talking about sex than they are money or compensation. And I think that's true regardless of whether you're a man or a woman. The challenge is that women are penalized in ways that men aren't because they're stepping outside the expectations of what is expected behavior. So for men, it's perfectly acceptable to advocate for yourself, to ask for a raise, look out for number one. But women are supposed to be nice, much more nurturing, and we can be penalized, in fact, by men and women if we step outside those societal expectations and can appear to be too aggressive or too angry. And so women have to find a balanced approach to negotiating and still advocate for themselves. And there's great advice on how to do that. One example is to use the term we instead of I as much as possible, so you can show concern for the broader community but still advocate for yourself.
But again, it's a two-way street. So the person who you're negotiating with has to either be at that point or not. And as a country, I guess it's a broad brush stroke statement. But we've probably come a long way, but not far enough. And as far as women go, and if I could ask you to add your extra 2 cents to that, what you just said, and extend that to the African American women, are they even more outside the box by showing negotiating attempts? You know what I mean? Are they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, I'm an African American woman, and I actually write a bit about this. I say that women of color need to lean in even more because we also have stereotypes that we have to address head on, and so it's very important to be specific and deliberate in the language you use, the body language that you show, so that you don't feed into the expectations, but soften your approach while still advocating for yourself. It's a balance that we all have to find, particularly women, and then even more so for women of color.
And Dr. Levy, when a man and a woman are dating each other, should their financial status be known early on in that relationship? Should the man know what the woman is working as and vice versa, and how much she makes? Because could that cause problems later on if the woman is in a higher position than the fella she's dating and making more money?
Gosh, I hope we start to get past that. But, that's obviously very personal and depending on, kind of who you are and where your values are. A really important thing that we're striving for in terms of lean in is to have more equity, both in our workplaces, but also in the home. And so it would be great if there were more men taking on more household responsibilities and spending more time at home, and more women taking on leadership responsibilities in the workforce.
And Dr. Levy, in the piece that you wrote for the book, you focused a lot on skills necessary to get the job and mistakes that you might make, how to create the resume and that kind of thing, almost like self-sales ideas.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, there's so many different pieces of advice around resume building and interviews and so forth in the chapter. But presenting yourself well is really, really key. And it actually, for new graduates, it honestly starts with social media. Everybody's on social media, and what they don't realize is that when you are applying for a job, the employer who is looking at your resume will Google you. They will research you online. And so what is out there, it's really, really important that you take a close look at it and make sure it's in service of the image that you're trying to portray. The other big tip that I provide, and it really applies throughout the job search, is around preparation. You can't be too prepared. I once interviewed this guy, it was only a few years ago, and it was a great interview. He had all the right stuff. And he ended the interview saying, "Oh my gosh, it's always been my dream to work for an accounting firm or one of the top accounting firms." And, the sad thing is I don't work for an accounting firm.
Yeah.
So, preparation will help you to portray the image that you want to portray, and also ask good questions and have a good dialogue.
How did that happen? I mean, that would be like me walking into a radio station saying, I've always wanted to work for a bookstore. How did that happen?
Yeah, you know what? These new grads, they're applying for a lot of different jobs. And so just, even doing a little bit of research goes a long way.
Do you think that the students that are graduating today, when they feel frustrated, do you think that they're blaming their shortcomings on their parents not giving them advice that they needed while growing up?
I don't know. That's a really good question, and I think it probably is, very individualistic. The important thing, the message for them is there's so much that you can do yourself, and, it's sort of time to get yourself together, and these are not skills that you have to be born with. You can learn how to conduct a very productive job search and how to pick up some of those soft skills that you may not have picked up along the way.
The book is called Lean In for Graduates. If you're familiar with the Lean In books, then you're familiar with Sheryl Sandberg. And this particular one is, in addition to Sheryl's writing, there is the writings of other contributors, such as Dr. Mindy, Levy, and Kimberly Keating, who are both on the phone with us right now. The one thing I would worry is that somebody in the country is going to take your words and use them. What do you call it again? Not pilfering. That's called plagiarism. They're going to be plagiarized. Yes, plagiarism. But the advice is, I can imagine anybody reading this, and this is going to speak to so many people. You know what? And here's the thing, too. The whole lean in idea, the idea that you watch, we have, how many times has this happened? Maybe none of you, but I've witnessed this, where I was kind of shy, stand backish, watched other people who got onto the job after me, really didn't have the skills I had. I really had more, but they leaned in. They got to know somebody, Next thing you know, they're my boss. Mm-hmm. I told myself that was never going to happen again.
You encapsulated like a really big issue for women is, we don't always apply for jobs because we don't think we are the perfect candidate. We don't meet all 100% of the qualifications. But the guy next to us in the office next door, he's like, I can do that.
Yeah.
So they apply, and you know what? That man becomes the woman's boss.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, just you got to let that down, that defensiveness down, and just go for it.
But it is a good message to our daughters and the young women in our lives and in our communities, to let them know that you've got just as much of a right to get the great job as the guy who is your counterpart. But the similar message to the shy guy, the guy who's not the go-getter, who really could be a better candidate for a certain position. So it's really to anybody who feels for some reason that they're not being noticed.
Yeah, that's right. And, you can, in today's day, in almost any industry, you just can't sit back and let things come to you, whether it be a salary that you want or a new opportunity. It's really important to seek them out.
Yeah, it's very important to you. It's more important to you to get the job than it is for the employer to have you, because he's got a lot of people to pick from, or she. Sure. But the employer has a lot of choices. You've got to find one. I have a copy of the book. It's called Lean In for Graduates. It's a wonderfully done book. If you would like the copy that was sent to me, you can have it. Call me at the WOCA Climate Control Source Hotline. You have to do it after the interview because I have one of the ladies on the line. So call me after the interview, 622-9622. Dr. Levy and Kim, how do we get the book? Do you have a website?
Absolutely. You can get more information about negotiating for your salary and getting good compensation data at my website, which is keatingadvisors.com. And also you can order the book at leanin.org.
Okay. And Dr. Levy, do you have a website of your own?
My website is mindylevyleadership.com.
Okay, excellent. For the listeners, this has been recorded and it will be on our YouTube channel by 2 o'clock today, and also on our Facebook page. Dr. Levy and Kimberly Keating, thank you, ladies. Thank you for being on the air with us, and thank you for your contribution to this world.
All right, thank you. I think you should go out and do a graduation speech now.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know that I have anything good. I'll be plagiarizing you. That's what I'll do. Thank you, ladies.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. Isidro Garcia, the California man accused of kidnapping and holding a 15-year-old girl for a decade, due in court today.
Anthony Bertagna is a corporal with the Santa Ana Police Department.
We do know on 2 separate occasions she tried to escape. He caught her and she was beaten for her efforts.
She said Garcia forced her to marry him and they had a child together 2 years ago. She reached out to police after first contacting her sister through Facebook.
Fox Radio's Jessica Rosenthal. A report from AP says our security forces failed a simulated hostile takeover of a nuclear missile silo in Montana last summer.
Earlier this year, the Defense Department ordered 2 parallel nuclear reviews still underway to address this and other recent lapses in security involving the nation's nuclear weapons.
Fox Radio's Jeff Manasso. And the number of people looking for first-time jobless help last week rising to 326,000. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Now through Memorial Day, Performance Bicycle, the nation's